and confused is fake news.
Come on, son.
Good afternoon, folks, and happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Blazed and Confused. Brings you the wild and wacky news. I'm not going to lie, folks. This one here, when I first saw it on Facebook, I thought it was some sort of AI generated story. But I believe that it has turned out to be true. And maybe you've heard about it. But we are going to get into it. Raccoon breaks into liquor store, passes out in the bathroom after booze-fueled rampage. Officials say the masked bandit, later named Cole, entered the business from the ceiling and took down the security cameras. I really wish they had video footage of that. And they might somewhere. If you guys know about it, let me know. An inebriated raccoon was taken into custody after allegedly breaking into a Virginia liquor store on Black Friday. He just thought maybe he could get half-price booze. Partaking in what officials have deemed as a liquor-fueled rampage. A trail of smashed liquor bottles led police to the masked suspect, who was found passed out in the sploot position on the Ashland business bathroom floor, according to Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter. In an embarrassing photo shared by authorities, the plastered proconid, I don't think I've ever said that word in my life, could be seen lying next to a garbage can and a toilet. So here he is. Yeah, he's in pretty bad shape there. He's in pretty bad shape there. The town later identified the four-legged intruder as Cole, noting he may need a ride home after the wild weekend. Yeah, so he definitely needs a ride home. Officials said police brought the furry bandit to the animal shelter to sober up. After a few hours of sleep and zero signs of injury, other than maybe a hangover and poor life choices. Come on, son. He was safely released back to the wild, hopefully having learned that breaking and entering is not the answer, officials wrote in a statement. Yeah, he made a bit of a mess there. Smashing a number of liquor bottles before passing out in the bathroom. That's funny. That's pretty funny. The shelter added, there's no footage of the incident as the raccoon entered the building through the ceiling and took the cameras down with him. Well, he knew what he was doing. They weren't going to prove it. Now, if he would have just made it out of the store instead of passing out, he might have gotten away with it. Police have not yet released a motive for the trash panda's invasion, though they responded to the animal shelter statement with a GIF of TV talent judge Simon Cowell clapping. It is unclear what led the furry creature to break into the establishment. Cole could not immediately be reached by Fox News Digital for comment. That might be the funniest story of the year. I really, really wish they would have had footage of that. That would have been hilarious to watch. And something tells me this is going to be a meme forever now. This raccoon passed out on the floor between the trash can and the toilet. So, what would you say is the moral of this story, folks? I say it goes two ways. One, if you're going to break into a place, make sure and take down all the cameras first. And try not to get so smashed that you pass out on the bathroom floor like Cole did here and get caught by the authorities. That's a great story, folks. Again, I saw it a couple weeks there, a week or so ago, and I was like, oh, that's some AI generated story. But anyway, that's great. And again, if you guys have any wild and crazy stories that you want to share, send me an email. It's in my description, and we will dive into them. I'm going to scour the internet for another wild and crazy news story that I can bring you. And until then, we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.
Blazed and confused is fake news!
Come on, son.
All right, folks, we are back with story number 2. I was actually going to do this story on Thanksgiving, but I ate a whole bunch of food and I came home from the family's house and took a nap and kind of forgot about it. So here we go. An unforgettable Thanksgiving with Tennessee's angry grandmother. Political differences at the table led to suspicion of the side dishes. That looks pretty good. I'm not going to lie. My father and mother were born in the 1920s, grew up during the Depression and World War II, and November and December were not very different from them than the other 10 months of the year. Thanksgiving and Christmas days were quiet and simple, but not for their children. It was important to my parents to create memories for us and their grandchildren, and what better way to do that than to start the holiday season with an unforgettable Thanksgiving lunch. Food was always a big part of any special occasion that involved my okay, I don't know what that is. They left something out there. My husband Larry's first Thanksgiving meal as an official part of my family came in 1992. My family, the Terrys, were East Tennessee Lincoln Republicans. Even though he is a yellow dog Democrat, Larry had been warmly accepted by my family, or so he thought. Yellow dog Democrat. Come on, son. Mother always started her Christmas decorations the day after Halloween. Every wall, staircase, table, and corner in the home of her home was covered with Christmas decorations, and they stayed up at least until January 2nd. Starting at Thanksgiving, my sisters and I were expected to wear our best holiday motif sweaters and style our hair for the family pictures that would surely be taken. Mother set the time that we would eat, and on Thanksgiving morning, as soon as we arrived, we went to work. My daddy had an annual ritual of telling my sisters and me that it might be Mother's last holiday season because she worked too hard. Then Daddy would worry which of his 4 daughters and their families were going to be late and whether the time of arrival would impact the time we ate. My mother, a Republican, professed to like my new husband, a Democrat, but the food she served him made us all question her intentions. My sisters and I knew exactly what was involved in Mother's memory creating holiday meal. My mother inherited her mother's table, and normally my parents had enough room around it for 4 to 6 people, but not for family gatherings. There were several heavy, big wooden leaves that had to be installed to seat up to 20 people, and the leaves had to be locked in to avoid accidents. Our husbands offered to help, which we accepted for only the heavy lifting, and we had to collect chairs from all over the house and make sure they were sturdy. A chair collapsing during a big meal was funny, but could be unhealthy. Yeah, I would say. We then asked the men to leave so the sisters could privately share our news, or call it gossip if you must. The tablecloth had to hang correctly, and at one time, Mother's table looked like something out of downtown Abbey, with her best china, polished sterling silver, and cloth napkins. When it was just the two of them, Mother rarely cooked for Daddy. There was a friendly meat and three restaurant in their neighborhood, and eating there at least once a day, not necessarily together, was a way for Daddy and Mother to socialize with the community and keep up with what was going on. This informal eatery had a catering service, and Mother decided to order her Thanksgiving meal from them. She picked up her order and put the container of food in the trunk of her car, drove the short distance home, and brought the food into her kitchen. She got up early on Thanksgiving morning to warm the food and to transfer most of it into her dishes. My husband, Larry Woods, was already a vegetarian when we married, and this caused much angst in our family. They thought he would starve without meat, and that it they thought he would starve without meat, and that it would be okay to serve vegetables that had been cooked with pork, chicken, or beef. I suggested Mother add a dish of macaroni and cheese for Larry because what could go wrong? Everyone loves macaroni and cheese. I love macaroni and cheese, I'll tell you that. When we finally sat down to eat, Daddy always said a few words before offering grace. Mother, in turn, always worried the food was getting cold while Daddy was praising Mother for her efforts and the Lord for our bounty. We kept our heads bowed and sometimes glanced and smiled at each other, wondering how long this would go on before we could finally eat. Passing all the food was a production, which, according to Mother and manners experts Emily Post, was to the right. We all talked at the same time and tried not to drop the heavy serving pieces as we passed around the food. We had been raised to put a small portion of every dish on our plate, which did not apply to the vegetarians at the table. As we ate, I noticed the mac and cheese had a strange taste to it, and that Larry was stirring and playing with his mac and cheese instead of eating it, and served himself a mound of bread each time the silver bread basket was passed. Finally, we cleared the table and began preparing dessert when my sister and I were alone in the kitchen. I asked them if they had noticed anything weird about the mac and cheese, and they all said it tasted terrible. One of us asked Mother if she had tasted it. She reminded us that she did not care for mac and cheese, but there could have been a problem with the kerosene she kept in her car spilling in the trunk, and that perhaps some of the kerosene spilled onto the macaroni and cheese. Holy cow. Mother said she's not going to throw away good money spent on food just because a little kerosene. We did not know whether to laugh hysterically or to be horrified. That's about where I'm at with it. I'm pretty sure you don't want to be ingesting kerosene, but these folks were tough. The next day, Larry was on The Round Table, a Nashville talk radio program that featured politicos discussing current events. Live and on the air, he said that his new mother-in-law tried to kill him at his first Thanksgiving meal because his candidate and not hers had just won the 1992 presidential election. Mother was listening. She called me immediately and said to tell Larry she was going to kill him and just tell God that he died. I feel like I've heard people say that before. The mac and cheese with kerosene became part of our family history. Vegetarian dishes are always viewed with suspicion, especially during an election year. And we still do not know why the kerosene was in Mother's trunk. But Larry took great joy for many years by sharing the story of how his mother-in-law tried to unalive him at the Thanksgiving dinner. Woo, that was a little bit longer than I thought. We had a lot of filler there, but it sounds like Larry made it through that dinner. I'm kind of glad I wasn't there and got any of that macaroni and cheese. I don't think that's very safe. Anyways, folks, that was a little bit longer story, but I think the moral of this story is don't talk about politics at the dinner table. And if you do, just know that maybe, just maybe, somebody in the family might slip a little kerosene in your macaroni and cheese. That is going to be it for story number 2, folks. I appreciate you joining me on this little adventure here. I hope everybody is having a great weekend, and we will catch you next time.
Blazed and confused is fake news!
Come on, son.